Good evening, and thank you all for attending this virtual program. For the duration of the program, your microphones will be disabled, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat section. Tonight, Dr. Ozier from Rutgers Business School will speak to us about blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. Dr. Ozier is a global leading expert on blockchain and cryptocurrency with a background of data scientist and quant strategist. She has in-depth knowledge and experience in global financial markets and its market microstructure. Currently, Dr. Ozier applies her unique expertise to researching the blockchain ecosystem and experimenting with distributed ledger technology, DLT, specifically decentralized finance, DeFi, non-fungible tokens, NFTs, and decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs, applications across different industries and business use cases. Dr. Ozier is a fintech professor at Rutgers Business School, RBS. At RBS, she has developed and teaches courses on blockchain and digital assets for both undergrads and the graduate level. She has been frequently interviewed on blockchain, NFTs, and DeFi space by worldwide media such as Bloomberg, BBC, New York Times, and Forbes. Dr. Ozier is the editor-in-chief of the World Scientific Series in FinTech and is currently writing a book about NFTs. She is a member of the Academy Advisory Board at INATBA, the International Association for Trusted Blockchain Applications, and holds a PhD from Stern Business School at NYU. Without any further introduction, I will now let Dr. Ozier begin her lecture. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Christopher, for this wonderful introduction, and thank you all for having me here today. So today, the big topic is blockchain and everything that relates to that. So maybe I'll start with sharing the screen, and that will be our first. I think I'll share my screen. Okay, does everyone see my screen? Yes, you see my screen? Christopher, just tell me.
Yep.
Yeah? Okay, excellent.
Writing yes in the chat.
Okay, excellent, perfect. So if you see my screen, then so we can start. So again, thank you very, very much for having me here today. This is a topic that is very close and dear to my heart. Very excited about this technology, and what I would like to speak with you today about is blockchain technology, the cryptocurrency, NFTs, which is non-fungible tokens, the metaverse, all the the buzzwords that we probably hear today on the news every day, and they're all connected. So you think that, oh, NFTs has nothing to do with blockchain or metaverse, but they definitely do. And I'm going to put everything together and explain to you how all of that's going to affect your life, impact your life, your current and the future, and your economic life, your financial life, your social life. Everything is going to be part of what technology that I'm going to talk about today. My emphasis is more about the technology itself, because this is how everything began, and this is what the most important thing is, rather than thinking about the question that everyone is asking, oh, is Bitcoin going to go to the moon or not? It's not about that, because Bitcoin wasn't supposed to be a financial instrument, was supposed to be a financial asset, or what we call an asset class. It has nothing to do with that. It's all about the technology. It started with the technology, and this is what I'm going to try and explain and bring you back to where it all started and what the technology is all about, because even those who are criticizing Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and all of that, they do understand the technology, whether it's Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan or the other regulators. You will see that they do understand and do appreciate it, do acknowledge the power of the technology. And it may not be Bitcoin. It could be some other application that can be built on blockchain, and that's a technology itself. And this is what I'm going to focus and explain to you how whatever, words that you see here, the NFTs and metaverse, and the buzzwords that you hear in the media, they all connect today. One more thing that I would like to stress here before we start, the explanation, is that I wholeheartedly believe, in fact, not just believe, but know that within maybe 10 to 15 at the most, 10 probably more likely, because there are a lot of people that are working on that globally. Everything that all the products and the services that you engage with today will run on what we call DLT, distributed ledger technology, or blockchain technology, in some way or another. What I mean by run is that will be the technology that is going to facilitate those transactions on those services and those products. So everything that we know today is going to be the technology behind it will be some type of blockchain technology. And this is why I'm so super excited about this technology. And hopefully by the end of this lecture today, you'll be a touch, excited as I am. If I get you a little bit, I've done my work today. So let's start with what is blockchain. So blockchain technology, if you think about blockchain technology, and I'm sure you read a lot about that and Google about that, and the way that people like to explain it is that the most simplistic way is like it's a ledger. But it's not a regular ledger, like Excel spreadsheet or something like that, or a ledger, when you put, information of about a database. It's a ledger that is impossible to forge, because everything that is recorded on this ledger, on the blockchain, cannot be changed, cannot be altered, cannot be amended or anything like that. It cannot be erased. Whatever you record stays there forever. So there's no let's reverse the transaction, you ask for a deletion or you do all things like that with the regular ledger. This ledger, whatever you record, that's it. It stays there forever. If you want to change something, then you have to kind of undo it with another transaction or another record. So everything stays there forever. So there's like a footprint that is never going to be erased. And this is why it's called, we say that blockchain technology everything is immutable. None, you can't, if you put your footprint on any blockchain, this is why when people say, talk about scammers, and I will be more than happy to maybe talk about it at some point, it's impossible to scam on the blockchain, because your footprint is there forever. If you try to do something, whatever you try to do, you can't erase it. And this is why the FBI is able to find all those terrorists, and the ransomware and all of those trying to do it on the blockchain within a matter of hours to days. So it's much easier to some extent to find people, to track the criminals and the terrorists and the scammers on the blockchain. So I know it's a misconception that people think that because it's anonymous in a sense, and I will spend that, I'll also show you what I mean by that, is almost impossible. So now, so let's, more specifically, when we think about this ledger, it's what we call it's a decentralized ledger. And when we think about what I mean by decentralized ledger, it means that it's cross-border, meaning that there's no central authority. There's no one place or one connection, or it's like one cloud where everyone, There's only one access point. This is why we say that there's no one point of failure in terms of technology. And that's a great thing, because what it means that, think about it, what I mean by decentralization is that everyone has an access to that. Meaning, and that was the whole concept of blockchain technology back when Bitcoin was created, which was January of 2009. I will let everyone think about what happened around that time, which kind of triggered all of that. I mean, I'll let you think about it and put me your answers in the chat. So if you think about it, then what I mean by, everyone has access, as long as you have internet connection and you have a computer, theoretically speaking, everyone who has an internet connection, whether you are on a trip to sailing to Alaska or on the top of the Himalaya, as long as you have internet connection and you have a computer, you can tap into the blockchain. So everyone can see all the transactions that are happening. It's not, there's no like a gatekeeper who will tell you, oh, you have to sign or to get in and see all the transactions or anything like that. So that's what we mean by decentralization, that everyone, theoretically speaking, if you have an access, as internet, computer, that's what we call a node. A computer, a node is a computer basically. Then everyone has access. And this is why what we call it cross-border, because internet is everywhere, right? We already understood this, especially with the pandemic, that we can, interact with people remotely from all over the world, right? Doesn't matter where we are. And the pandemic would just emphasize that to the nth degree. And blockchain is basically a software, right? So that's what, if you think about it, that's what I mean by decentralization, cross-border, and that everyone can basically access that from wherever. So now, another point that relates to this is that, as I said, everyone has access. Now, not only that everyone has access, because everyone has access, then everything is transparent. So all the information, whatever is recorded is transparent for everyone to see. This is what I'm saying, the idea of, trying to scam someone on the blockchain is a little bit amusing to me. And, with the OpenSea incident and others, which I don't know if I have time to speak about it, but in any event, when someone tries to do anything, everything can be tracked. And everyone can see what's happening and all the transactions, all the interactions. So all the transactions, the log itself, all the transactions are there. What's not is fully transparent is the identity, meaning that unlike, let's say, in your bank account, for example, when you have a name, right? You have an account and you also have a profile with the name and everything else, and maybe some other sensitive information. This sensitive information is not transparent for everyone to see. And I will show you that. Don't just bear with me for another minute or two, and I'll show you that. So what I mean by that. So this is what I'm saying. The information on the blockchain is pseudo-anonymous. Why? You can see all the transactions. Let's say if I made some transaction, then you can see all the transactions that I've done through the entire time that this account has, I opened this account or this ID, this wallet, digital wallet, which is the account, if you think about it. On the blockchain, you can see everything, but you do not know that it's me. You do not have any information on that. You can see that I've been transacting with all kinds of other wallets. You can track them down. But just for those of you who are tech savvy, you probably can understand why with a little bit sophisticated AI, artificial intelligence, this is how the FBI is basically able to track down to the name of the terrorist and the criminals. It is possible, but it's not something that the everyday person can do. But that's besides the point. So let's leave it at that for now, and I don't want to get too much into the technicals, but just want to understand the concept that is all behind it and why this technology can do so many great things. So now, another way to think about it, another feature of that is what we call trustless. It's a peer-to-peer system. So there's no, as I said, there's no central governance, right? There's no one central cloud base where everyone can enter. There's no company or government or any organization that controls it and decides, what happens here. The whole concept of Bitcoin was it was supposed to be and still is a peer-to-peer payment system, and I'll talk more about payment. But the idea is that it's peer-to-peer system. So everything that is built on the blockchain, a decentralized blockchain, a permissionless blockchain, what we call it, is trustless. What you mean by trustless is that if you think about it, and I will expand that a little bit more in a minute or so, is that you have to, if you are interacting with, there are two persons, let's say, who are interacting without knowing each other, then they have to somehow trust each other, right? That, I am really going to transact with you, and X is saying, okay, I'm really going to transfer, this amount, and you're going to transfer this asset, et cetera, et cetera. So all of this has to happen without any intermediaries. And this is why we call it trustless. So there has to be some mechanism. So there is a mechanism. Every blockchain has a mechanism, what we call a consensus mechanism, which is all code, which explains, how this works. So the basic idea behind it is that basically it is governed by the members of this ecosystem, of this, whoever is a node and is a member and has tapped into this blockchain is part of that community. And therefore, that person or persons are going to be part of this governance and abiding the rules of the consensus mechanism, which is all coded, will decide, how that's going to work, how transactions are validated, how validators are being rewarded, voting, changes, et cetera, et cetera. So there's no central authority, and that's what the beauty of all of that is. Of course, it's all everything is coded, of course. So just to summarize before we move on, is that if you think about, yes, everyone is saying that it's a ledger, but it's not a regular ledger, right? Because it has to be a difference between a regular ledger and a blockchain. So a regular ledger, we think about that, who can authorize is, so there's always, some authority, one person or group of people that, there is centralized blockchain, everyone basically have access to that. Whether a regular ledger can be changed, you can delete it, you can make any changes. With the blockchain, it is immutable. And with a regular ledger, usually you only have one copy here. Everyone who can tap into that node basically has a copy of that. So everyone has a copy of that, and everyone can administer that, part of this co-op, so to speak. That it's a decentralized governance, peer-to-peer, and the information about the clients of the account, which is visible for in the regular ledger, in the blockchain, which is anonymous, and I'll expand that. I'll show you what I mean by that. So now, going now to the concept of block. I know that everyone is saying, okay, this is called blockchain. Why a block? What is a block? The best way to think about a block, is, so a block is a collection of transactions, and it is going to be updated or validated every X amount of time. It could be, with Bitcoin, it takes minutes. Now the new ones, the new blockchains, which are proof of stake, are much faster. It's a matter of seconds. So there are validators, right? Who's supposed to validate this transaction because there's no intermediary like a bank that's supposed to, validate that. So there has to be some kind of mechanism. And they sell the validators and they are rewarded in some way. Now, the best way to think about a block is from, trying to find like a simple analogy is to think about a block as a file, right? So what is a file? A file is a collection of clients or accounts for information, right? So a block is a collection of transactions, but unlike a file, right, where you can make all kinds of changes and, you can delete and change and do with blockchain, you cannot do that. And more than that, the security and the safety is much higher. Yes, it is, cannot be forged or changed or altered, but at the same time, there's another concept that has to do with security. And this is where the chain aspect comes into play because it is called block and chain, right? Now, why blockchain? Because each and every block is chained to each other. They're chained to each other with some cryptographic mechanism. So this current block is chained to the previous one and then the previous one and the previous one and the previous one. So basically, the whole idea that because of this mechanism, it is very hard to basically, it's super immutable in the sense that, it cannot be changed forever, and super secure because, if you want to change one block, you basically have to change all the history. Now, going back to all the history, that is very time consuming and also very costly. There was some analysis saying, with Bitcoin, just 1 hour will cost you more than, I don't know, more than $1 million just, to try and change 1 hour of work. So that's already, definitely not, doesn't make any sense to do that. Not only that remember that everyone has a copy. Now, if you want to change it, right, any change, we'll have to change all the copies of, theoretically speaking, millions of copies that exist all over the world in order to really make the change happen. So this is why I'm saying it's basically impossible to make any changes when it comes to blockchain just because of this concept. And from that reason, you can think about blockchain that is very secure, unlike what people think. Okay, so, and by the way, just I know that you're probably thinking, oh, but there are hacks. Well, hacks don't happen on the blockchain, or what I call on-chain, they happen off-chain. Meaning if you have an account in a centralized organization like a crypto exchange, like Coinbase or Gemini, or a broker of some sort, then that can happen. But these wallets don't exist on the blockchain itself. They are what we call off-chain wallets. This is where the hacks happens. It's not that the blockchain itself is hacked. So this is a misconception, and I hope I a little bit explained that. So again, summarizing what just the features is it's centralized, immutable, no central authority, trustless, no intermediaries, and it is anonymous, it's secure, the cross-border peer-to-peer system. And the way to think about it is a democratic system run by the people, for the people. And this is what was the concept of Bitcoin when it was launched in January of 2009, just after the financial crisis. So if you can understand that, no intermediaries, no governance, no government, no financial institutions, etc. Now, I want to show you what I mean by all of this idea of, to better understand the anonymity issue and the transparency at the same time. So let me show you something. I want to share this with you. there is something that is called Explorer. Yeah. So this is an Explorer. Now, this is not the node itself. I'm not showing you the node. There is what I call what the Explorer is what we call a second derivative, meaning that it's a company that has tapped to the node, you know, like I can tap to the node myself, and I have. And they now taking this information, and what they're showing you here is in a sense an interpretation, because of the way that this the data is organized. So it's not even organized. I mean, it is coded, created on the blockchain is not what you see here, but it is something that can help you at least show you. So they taking this information and giving you for free to see this. And this is one, there are many Explorer like that. BTC.com is one Explorer. So now we're gonna look at Bitcoin Explorer. And I want someone to give me a number. So you won't think that it's me giving you a number. Any number of with 6 digits, up till 700 and something. I just don't want people to think that this is my number. Can someone come up with a number, or should I just, you know, put the number and you trust me that I'm not trying to? Oh, see that maybe someone has a number. Oh, okay, so let's.
Got a couple in the chat.
Okay, so let's do the one with 4, 5, 7, 3, 2, 4. Excellent. So let's do that one. Okay, thank you. So this number is basically the number of the block. And as you can see, it has a hash. That's, you know, the identity, the cryptographic identity of that block, of that collection of transaction. This is a number, right? And it gives you the timestamp. It was created sometime in March of, you know, the exact time, date and time when it was created. It gives you information about the number of transactions. I can tell, you know, the number of transactions are vary between one block to another. There's no, each and every block, you know, it's, you know, the limit is basically the megabyte and not necessarily the number of transactions. So if you have like a big transaction, could be one will have fewer, the other a lot, depending on the size of the transaction. So this is the number of transactions. It also tells you in terms of BTC, meaning Bitcoin, so how many Bitcoins. So this is like a lot of money. It was over 22,000 Bitcoin were transacted in this particular, some of the transactions that happens in this block. So why am I saying it's transparent? So as you can see, it's a collection of transactions, right? So we have the block, we have the hash, and now we have all the information about all the transaction, all these 1,900 and something transactions that were recorded or part of this block. So I have all the information, everything is transparent. So this is you can think about it as the ID of the transaction, right? It is also cryptographic, as you can see, it's a hash. See, this is all the transaction, and I have information about each and every transaction. These are basically the ID, the wallets, or the account IDs of these transactions. So you know that this wallet sent this much to this one particular wallet, or it can go for one to many or for many to one, right? So you can see which are those wallets that, you know, sent that much and to where, and we have a timestamp of when it was sent, and so I have all the information about all the details, very much, like when you try to go to a bank account and you open my account, you can see all the transactions I've done, right? With whom, when, how much. So that's the same idea. And you can even click on one of those, let's say, accounts, and you can see all the transactions that they have done since the beginning of time. I mean, beginning of their existence. So I don't know, you can take any account. This one had 116 transactions, and you can see all the transactions that happened, that they have done, that this account has done, and all the information about this account. So you can go from the block, you can have all the information about the transactions, all transactions related to that block, and then you can even get into the information about each and every account and get all the transaction per account and who they transacted with. And then you can basically, if you understand, the whole idea of, data science and everything, you can see, you can somehow create some algorithm to track all the transactions, the relationship of whatever account is. So this is just to explain to you what I mean that it's transparent. All the transactions are available for everyone to see, but at the same time, it's pseudonymous in the sense that the identity of the account itself is not revealed completely. I mean, as I said, there are always ways to do that, but it's not something that, off the bat, I can, see the name and everything else. So that's what I mean by pseudonymous. So that's as for the blockchain technology in terms of what I mean about transparency and anonymity. And of course, when I'm thinking about, when I mean about the security aspect of it, in fact, the creation of each and every hash, I don't want to go into the tech aspect of it, is created with the information of the previous one. This is why this is how they are basically connected. There's an algorithm that runs that, and it's all coded in software. Okay, so I just wanted to, I think that just to explain to you what I mean by that, and going back to the lecture. So this is as for what I wanted to show you. Now, and this, whatever I showed you, that was, what I showed you was basically the Explorer or the blockchain, for just Bitcoin, but that basically is something that you can see for anything that you can think of in that. I mean, whether it's Ethereum or Avalanche or Algorand, or all the new ones and the old ones, they all have the same concepts. Now, I know that there's also a lot of talk about Ethereum. So what is Ethereum and how Ethereum is different, than Bitcoin? So you can think about Bitcoin as, the first generation. So it's the first generation and only had one application. And one application was payments. That's it. Payment, and that was, the only application that relates, to Bitcoin. Now Ethereum, took it to the next level and said, okay, great, we can, Bitcoin, basically sometimes, I like to think about Bitcoin as being like a pilot, right? That proof of concept, okay, blockchain technology can work, what else can we do? And that's, what Ethereum did is like, what else can we do? What else can we do is that it basically created a platform that will allow to build on top of it all kinds of applications. So the best way to think about Ethereum and non-fungible token, in fact, is just one type of application. Now, it is a decentralized application. This is what they call DApp. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm sure that every one of you have a smartphone, whether it's an iPhone that runs on iOS, or whether it's, some kind of other phone that, will run probably on Android. Now, what is iOS or Android? If you think about, let's think about, Apple, for example. So Apple, they have created a platform called iOS. And what is this platform? It gives you, a platform with all kinds of tools for developers to come and create all kinds of applications. And these applications, and I'm sure that any one of you probably have maybe hundreds of applications on your phone, for gaming to weather to whatever. And we're always adding more, and we don't even remember what we have there, but we all have some. So how are they built? They're built, on some kind of, as I said, if it's an iPhone, then there's a platform of iOS. If it's if it's an Android, and there are others. And there are tools, developers come and build all these applications, and then, these applications are available for us to use. Now, but with iOS or Android, these platforms are controlled by a centralized company, right? In terms of iOS, we have Apple behind it. Android, we have Google, and others, there are other companies. So therefore, they decide, whether to approve, any application. They will decide about the cost. They're charging developers, and also a big deal about, a big issue about that. They're charging the customers, some free, some are not. So it is centralized, right? Now, Ethereum took that concept and said, well, it's really an interesting and neat idea, to create all kinds of applications. We have, from financial applications to health applications to whatever applications. So maybe we can do that also on a blockchain. So they took this idea and they created what we call a platform. Ethereum is a platform. They, of course, created all kinds of rules, which we call today smart contracts. They're not, they're basically codes, and with rules, which explains, how to build the application. And developers, if they go by these rules, they can create those applications and launch these applications. But unlike with Apple, or Google, that will have to approve and then charge the developers and charge maybe the users, here, every developer, as long as go by the rules and understand how to use this kind of platform, they can launch this, develop this application, and it is open for everyone from everywhere to use. So everyone can use it. It doesn't cost them, depending what the application is. So we have all kinds of applications, and NFTs, non-fungible tokens, is one type of an application. Tokenization is one type, and DeFi is another one. You can think about in fact, every application that you have on your phone is a DApp. And there are already a lot of experimentations with that. And I don't know if you ever had a chance to look at Ethereum, then you will see that whether it's financial, gaming, gambling, whatever you can think of on your phone, is also in a DApp version of some sort. So that has for to the understanding of the differences between Ethereum and Bitcoin. Now you're probably asking, okay, so what is the relationship? What is a cryptocurrency? So cryptocurrency is basically a digital or virtual currency, that is secured in a cryptographic way. By cryptography, it's impossible to counterfeit or double spend it. And because it runs on the blockchain, it has all the features of blockchain that I just mentioned to you, from mutability to transparency, et cetera. And because of that, it has great potential to democratize our society. And that's, I think, the main benefit that that's all these applications that hopefully will be built on this sooner rather than later. Now, I know that we are getting closer to the top of the hour. So I want to speak quickly about what is non-fungible assets and how it relates to that. So non-fungible, the concept of fungible versus non-fungible has been around, since the beginning of time, right? So if you think about fungible versus non-fungible, then you can think about, exchangeability, right? So something that is fungible is something that is exchangeable. So it means that basically, if you think about a dollar bill, right, these are exchangeable, and but they're not indistinguishable because there's a serial number. This is how the central bank basically track it. So from that perspective, this is not something. So it is interchangeable because if you go to any Starbucks, and buy, pay with whatever. Now, when we're thinking about something that is non-fungible, then it has to be something that is unique. So something that is unique, we think about a painting, right? That's the first thing that comes into mind. Or any collectible that you think about, whether it's a baseball card or a painting or a bottle of wine or anything like that. All this collectibles. This is why, the first idea with NFTs was, what the main hype is now with all this collectible, because it makes sense, but NFTs goes way above and beyond that, and I will explain in very soon. So, but you can think about, everything can be unique. You can think about yourself as being unique, and you can, in a sense, NFT yourself, or every I don't know, a drawing that your kid has done, you can put it on the as an NFT. Everything that is deemed unique and doesn't have like an interchangeable value, then you can use it, think about it as an NFT. So in the tokenization world, when we're thinking about taking it, this fungible or non-fungible from the physical world to the tokenization world, then a Bitcoin is basically interchangeable. And therefore, like the dollar bill, it doesn't matter whether I pay with this Bitcoin or that Bitcoin, so this is fungible. Non-fungible is, like a collage, that we probably heard about, that was, people was sold, for $69 million, and you have all these others, and you have basically, you hear about something like the Twitter of Dorsey, Jack Dorsey, so not Mark, but Jack Dorsey, that was sold for almost $3 million. And you hear about all others, things that celebrities, are putting out there that is sold for millions of dollars. But not everything is going to be sold for $1 million. One more thing that I would like to mention, I know there's the hype of NFTs, has been started, in the past year and a half. But this concept of NFTs didn't came yesterday or just recently. The first NFTs was basically created by Dapper Lab. And Dapper Lab are now the partners with NBA. There's a platform marketplace called NBA Top Shots. And I don't know if you heard about that, but there's all the NBA, that they're having the photos and other videos, created there. But they came up with this concept in 2017. But 2017, at the end of 2017, so what they created was a crypto kitty. It's pretty curious if you think about it, a kitty is basically unique, right? So you create this little kitty, and it was supposed to be, it's a game, right? And you breed it, and you play with it, and then sell it. So that was the whole idea of this game, and this is where it all started in 2017. But you maybe I'm sure that you are aware that at the end of 2017, the crypto market, went bust, and it was a bubble, and it was a bust, and then we forgot about all sorts of crypto and NFTs until the pandemic happened. And I always like to joke about it. That's probably, we had so much time on our hand because we're all, locked in our homes. We weren't about, we couldn't, go out and engage with people. So we started, looking into what can we do. And it's as if it was rediscovered, the whole idea of NFTs, as if it was like a new thing, but it wasn't. But I guess, it became, a hype during the pandemic, probably because of that. But it's a good thing because, NFTs is much more than just, hype and celebrities and all kinds of tokens, you know, that the collage or the gaming and everything like that. Now, brands are also now launching NFTs and are getting into the space of NFTs. Adidas, you know, they just, you know, you see the name is already indicating, you know, the relationship between the metaverse and NFTs, which I will explain. And Nike is launching NFTs. Dolce & Gabbana, I can show you, they just had a beautiful NFT that you see this one was NFT'd. They also NFT'd, that was back in September. The these crowns, you know, were NFT'd. And in fact, all this collection was sold for almost $6 million. So you see like big brands like Gucci and Dolce & Gabbana and Adidas and all of those, you know, they are getting into these NFTs, but from a business perspective. You probably also heard about, I think, Budweiser's, you know, that they also had a series of NFTs, you know, dug from their archives, all kinds of rare, you know, ads that they had back, I don't know, in the 60s, I don't know when they just started, and, you know, put it out for sale. And so they're all getting into creating some connection to their brand, rekindling, you know, the brand and also the relationship with their customers and creating some base of loyalty base. So when we're talking about creating a community, so as I said, you know, Adidas is doing this, Burberry, which is also like a luxury brand. I don't know if you eat at Dave & Buster, but they also, you know, they're trying to create, you know, some kind of a reward and loyalty system. You know, they came out with a series of NFTs, and, you know, people, you know, can now get them at the location, it can come with the phone, and then, you know, there's some gaming issue and all kinds of things like that. So this is, so NFTs can go above and beyond all of that. But the main power of NFTs is basically in the authentication. Now, because it's a token. Now, remember, it has all the features of what the blockchain has, right? So, and because everything is transaction-based, right? In our economy, in our society, everything is transaction-based, and, you know, everything for whatever you do, even when you go to get your driver license. In fact, your driver license can be also an NFT, because that's the way, you know, all these licenses can be authenticated via an NFT. Then that's really the big power of the business applications when we're talking about NFTs beyond the hype. And because now you can authenticate you know, everything, you know, everything, this asset, this certificate, this person even can be authenticated via NFTs, because token, which is created with all the features, and it's going to be, it cannot be changed because it has all the cryptographic aspect to that. And now that after you have the authentication part, now you can allow the transfer of ownership, because if I have the authentication, then this is how it facilitates the transfer of ownership and allow for all these transactions to happen in the physical world even. So NFTs, you know, has the power, you know, to authenticate physical assets and also virtual assets. For example, what I mean by physical assets, there's a company called Blockbar, and Blockbar is a marketplace, and this marketplace basically is what they, I mean, it's a liquor company, so it's liquor. So they have, I'm not really I don't understand liquor, and I'm not a collector of liquors, but, you know, but there is a bottle of, as you can see, single malt scotch. I mean, some of them are sold, you know, for a lot of money from collector, and they NFT that, meaning they authenticated the physical bottle. And now this physical bottle is now, if you hold this NFT, you basically have ownership on that physical bottle. Even if this physical bottle doesn't sit or stand on your dining table, you can claim the ownership for that bottle. Now, this is something that cannot be done in the physical world, because in order to do something like that in our real world, traditional world, you know, you have to go through lawyers, and so it's very costly. It's almost very cumbersome, and this is why it's never been done in our traditional world. But it can be done via the utilization of NFTs and the blockchain technology. So you can either authenticate with NFTs physical, and I know that Nike also is doing that with their exclusive Nike. They also going to do that, and also a virtual asset like, you know, the Beeple, or, you know, a virtual parcel on the virtual real estate marketplace called Decentraland, for example. So I know that we are running out of time, but, you know, just a quick understanding about how it's going to work in the metaverse. So the metaverse, you know, is what it is. It's a virtual space, right? So if it is a virtual space, and I do believe that this virtual place is going to happen, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And for everything to happen, right, in this virtual space, right, you need authentication of whatever digital assets are, or you need authentication of the avatars. You need to create all this authentication. And now you can understand why the concept of NFTs is very powerful and going to be utilized in the space of, in the metaverse. And this is the connection that, you know, basically the metaverse is not just about the 3D gaming that you see with all this, you know, fancy goggles, you know, that people are wearing and they play games. It's in order for that to really emulate our physical world and be like a virtual world that goes in parallel. We can move from one virtual space to another virtual space. In one virtual space, we are having a meeting, and the other ones we're having a conference, and the other ones we are sitting in a beach in Hawaii. So all of these virtual spaces, you know, needs to be authenticated, right? You know, that whatever the asset is, you have to have like maybe access with some cryptographic key in order to enter that. So that's how the authentication aspect of the NFTs blockchain is going to come into place, the cryptographic aspect that is going to form the blockchain technology that is very important. And above it all, there's also the understanding of what is decentralized finance. Now, decentralized finance is something that, you know, so remember that, you know, if you are interacting with the virtual world, and if you want all of this transaction to not just be like in a game, and to actually have an impact on your physical reality, right? On your physical world, it's not just a pretend, and this is how whatever is in the metaverse will really scale to become what it was imagined to be. Then you have to have some virtual currency, right, or token to allow for that to happen, because, you know, you can't really pay with the dollars, right? You need to have something digital, also to have a technology that connects between the physical and the virtual, right? So you have a wallet that maybe in your physical, digital wallet in your physical world that will connect to the digital world. And this is how all these transactions can happen in the metaverse. So if you think about it, then basically, then you can take your imagination and fly with it, because you can maybe have a virtual parcel in Decentraland and take a mortgage on this parcel to finance, let's say, your business in the real world, and vice versa. Or you can then pay for a garment, you know, that I just showed you with the Dolce & Gabbana to dress your avatar, or maybe borrow money to pay for it, or even use it as a collateral to pay for your business in the real world. I know I'm getting you confused and crazy by now, but if you think about it, this will be all possible with blockchain technology, with NFTs, with decentralized finance, and all the other applications that, you know, basically Ethereum is allowing you to build. And that's, you know, when I was talking about, you know, Ethereum, that's all the applications that I was just saying to you, that how we can build this. So if you think about it, then I will, you know, I know that I'm already at the top of the hour. So, and I want to maybe give you some time to ask questions. So I'm saying dare to dream, because dream and then technology follows. It always happens. We, all the sci-fi movies that we have seen in the 80s and the 90s came to reality today. I mean, whatever we are now doing on Zoom, that was sci-fi in the 80s, but not anymore. So, okay. Thank you very much for your time and being here with me today. And now I open it for questions. So I think, is there a question? To make transaction in a daily life? Yes. Yes, definitely. Yes. I mean, this is why, you know, this is why Bitcoin was created in the first place. Bitcoin was created in the first place. And was to create, you know, this peer-to-peer system to allow these transactions to happen via blockchain.
Are there any other questions that anybody would like to post to the chat?
And I'm sorry that I made people confused and crazy. I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry. Didn't mean to. But okay, how long do you think it will take for blockchain tech to affect our daily life? Well, I mean, I do believe wholeheartedly, because I see brands that are getting into that, and now we probably heard that Facebook is now changing their name to Meta, and they're getting into the metaverse, and they are investing in crypto. So all the big tech are already there, and you see brands like Nike and others, you know, that are already there. So when you see more and more that it's kind of like getting into the mainstream, then I have a lot of hope that it will happen sooner rather than later. I would like to say 10 to 15 years, maybe sooner. But as you know, now technology is evolving exponentially. And the way I like to think about it, the more people are going to work on that, the more brains, the more smart people, geniuses, you know, from all these, you know, places, whether startups or, you know, or companies that are been around for years, like Nike or Adidas, then it doesn't have to be a big tech company, but in fact, Nike has patents on blockchain, by the way, so it's not a tech company, but you can see that they are investing in that. So I hope that it will become mainstream sooner rather than later. Hopefully in 10, 15 years, maybe sooner. I would like to be optimistic. Okay, what else questions do I have here? Okay, people are thanking. Thank you back. Thank you very much. Currency is backed by government? No. Well, yes. I mean, your fiat money, your dollar is backed by the government. It's issued by central bank. But a cryptocurrency, as you can understand, is not issued by a central bank. That was the whole idea of Bitcoin. It is not run by a government, it is not run by a central bank, it is, as I said, run by the people for the people. So there is a way. I didn't get into the technicalities. It's all in the code. You can create, this is why we think about the next level is the DAO, which is Decentralized Autonomous Organizations, which is basically, you can take like a co-op, right? Which is governed by the members of this community. They come up with the rules, right? You can code this rule because everything is rule-based. Everything can be coded and can be translated in how you can govern. So you can govern it by the code. In fact, it's even better because I call it like faceless governance, because you don't, I mean, it's not biased. All the racial and social biases that we have in our society can be diminished if not eliminated with this code. Which two public companies do you think will profit the most from blockchain tech? Within, what do you mean by public? You mean centralized companies, like whether it's Facebook or Nike? I don't want it to be Facebook because, you know, I don't want, you know, whatever this technology to be centralized. But the way that I would like to think about it, instead of, you know, think about which company is going to benefit from that, I want us as a society to benefit from that, and not think about which company is going to benefit from that. But I think that every company that are now investing in the blockchain metaverse, whether it's the Nike and the Adidas and Dolce and all of those, they're all, you know, it's, of course, they're all experimenting. We don't know which one is going to, you know, have the best position in products, but I believe if they do it right, then they definitely will be able to do that. So all of those, you know, are good candidates in my mind. Now there's another question here.
Yes,
do you know of any classes for buying or selling, or what are some more resources we can look into? Well, you can come and take my courses at Rutgers. I mean, I teach a few courses on blockchain for undergrads and MBAs and for quant people. So you can come and take those classes. I mean, I'd be more than happy to have you there. Or you can, you know, read. I'm also writing a book on that, so that might help. Transaction is not helpful. Well, I mean, if you think about it, you know, when I'm thinking about transaction in whatever, I mean, if you buy coffee, right, you know, this is a transaction. If you giving a gift, that's a transaction. If you just want to share information is also a transaction. Everything is transaction based. That's what I mean by that. The reason why I'm saying person, because it could be an entity, right? It could be, you know, an individual, but it could also be an entity that can do the transaction, the sharing of information, or the financial transaction or the economic transaction. This is why I was not specifying whether it's an individual or organization. So I said person, but sorry if I confused you with that. Okay, what else? A large, etc. can play very large role in. Yes, I agree with you. All these banks are already getting into that, and they definitely make investments, especially JP Morgan. You probably heard about them. They have their own blockchain. You know, they created Quorum, which is the private version of Ethereum. So they have their own coin, digital coin. And as you can see, it's a digital coin, which doesn't have a government behind it. It's a bank. So you can definitely create a digital currency with this, and all of them are getting into that. I agree with you that they will definitely benefit from that. JP Morgan already doing a lot of investments in blockchain since 2015. They have already invested in that. Now they created Vision just on digital and blockchain. And Citi is also getting into that I know. So yeah, definitely. I agree with you 100%. Any other questions?
All right, well, if there are no more questions, I'll close out today's session. Thank you very much, Dr. Ozier, for coming, and thank you very much to everybody that has participated in the chat and watched the presentation. I hope you learned something, and I hope we can do something like this again soon.
Yeah, thank you so very much. Yeah, I very much appreciate you, and thank you for the feedback and the questions, and hope to come back soon.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful we'll definitely try to offer more presentations like this. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
You too. Thank you so much. Thank you.